Have you ever wondered what why, after spending time with someone, you feel drained, like your very soul is exhausted? What if I told you that demons do exist, just not in the way you think? They don't have horns or tails. They don't appear in nightmares. They come disguised as friends, lovers, even family, people who say they care, but slowly, silently tear you apart from the inside. This video isn't about horror stories or superstition. It's about the emotional vampires and psychological manipulators who creep into your life wearing masks of affection, until one day you don't even recognize yourself anymore. We often miss the signs because they're subtle, calculated, and spread over time. But today, we're pulling back the curtain. These are 6 signs, yes 6, that someone close to you may be a hidden source of emotional destruction. If you've ever doubted your worth, lost your voice in a relationship, or felt like you were disappearing just to please someone else, this might explain why. And if you stay with me to the end, you'll learn how to spot these signs early and reclaim the power they may have taken from you. So let's begin with one of the most common and most overlooked red flags. You walk into a conversation with them feeling fine, maybe even excited. But the moment it's over, it's like something inside you just collapsed. You feel emotionally drained, your mind is foggy, you might even get a headache or feel physically ill. And the strange part? They look more energized than ever. That's not a coincidence. You may have just spent time with an energy vampire, someone who feeds off your emotional presence without giving anything back. They dominate the conversation, constantly shifting the spotlight onto themselves. You try to share something meaningful, but somehow every story becomes their story. Every achievement of yours is brushed aside. Every struggle is turned into a competition they need to win. It's subtle at first. You might excuse it as them just being talkative or having a hard day, but pay close attention to the pattern. Ask yourself, how do I feel before and after I see them? If the answer is consistently worse, exhausted, anxious, or emotionally flat, it's not just in your head, it's them. True relationships should feel like a mutual exchange. You give and you receive. You speak and you are heard. You support and you're supported. But with energy vampires, it's always one-sided. Here's a tip that helped me personally. Start keeping a mental or even written log of how you feel before and after being around certain people. Patterns don't lie, but emotions can be deceptive in the moment, because the most dangerous people aren't the ones who hit you. They're the ones who deplete you quietly, consistently, until you no longer have the energy to walk away. So ask yourself, who in your life always leaves you feeling worse? Because that person might not just be draining your time, they could be draining your spirit. You used to laugh freely with your best friends. You called your family just to hear their voices. But now, everything's changed. You hesitate before answering a friend's call. You second-guess texting your sibling, and deep down, you don't know why. Until you realize, someone's been quietly cutting the threads that connect you to the world. This is what strategic isolation looks like. And it's not always loud. It doesn't come with ultimatums or locked doors. It comes with carefully crafted guilt and emotional manipulation. It starts innocently enough. They don't understand you like I do, they whisper. You always seem different after spending time with them. Soon your circle gets smaller, your conversations get shorter, and the people who once grounded you feel further and further away. They'll call it love or protection, but it's really control. They'll make you feel selfish for wanting space, guilty for making time for others, ungrateful for needing anything outside of them. And before you know it, your entire world revolves around one person, them. It's not about physical distance, it's about emotional dependency. They become your filter for truth, your judge, your confidant, your only source of comfort, and your biggest source of pain. This tactic is especially dangerous because it doesn't look like abuse. It looks like romance. It feels like intimacy, but it's a trap wrapped in sweet words. One woman I spoke to said it took her 3 years to notice what was happening. By the time she tried to reconnect with old friends, they had already moved on, tired of being shut out. That's how strategic isolation works. It doesn't just break your relationships, it makes you feel like breaking them was your idea. Here's something to ask yourself. Who gets upset when you spend time with people you love? Who makes you feel guilty for having a life that doesn't include them? Because if someone's love comes at the cost of every other connection in your life, it's not love, it's possession, and you deserve more than that. Have you ever started to say, wait, that's not what happened, only to be told you're remembering it wrong? At first, you doubt them, then you begin to doubt yourself, and eventually, you stop speaking up altogether. Welcome to the quiet war of reality distortion, also known as gaslighting. This isn't just about lying, it's about reprogramming your reality, little by little, until the only version of truth you believe is theirs. You remember what they said last night, the cruel words, the accusation, the silence, but the next day, they act like nothing happened. And when you bring it up, you're too sensitive. That's not what I meant. You're always twisting things. Suddenly the conversation shifts from what they did wrong to what's wrong with you. That's not an accident. It's a tactic. By invalidating your memory, your feelings, and even your sanity, they tighten their grip on your reality. And it works because the human mind needs consistency. When someone we love insists over and over again that we're the problem, it's easier to believe them than to risk losing them. But over time, the cost is devastating. You begin second-guessing everything. Your confidence shrinks. Your self-esteem disappears. And one day you find yourself apologizing for things that were never your fault in the first place. I once spoke with a man named Jordan, who kept a small notebook hidden in his closet. Every time he had an argument with his partner, he'd write down the exact words exchanged. Why? Because every time he brought something up later, she denied it ever happened. And without that journal, he would have started to believe her. So here's a suggestion. If you ever feel like reality keeps shifting under your feet, document it. Your truth matters, even if someone else is trying to erase it. Ask yourself, do I often feel confused after arguments with this person? Do I find myself apologizing just to keep the peace, even when I know I'm not wrong? Because when someone makes you doubt your own mind, it's not a relationship anymore. It's a form of psychological control. And no one has the right to make you question your own truth. You see, one minute they're showering you with affection, the next they're cold, distant, or even cruel. In public, they're charming, everyone's favorite person, but behind closed doors, it's a different story. This isn't just moodiness. It's not a bad day or stress. It's a calculated manipulation designed to keep you off balance, questioning yourself, and craving their approval. This is the classic Jekyll and Hyde personality, and it's more dangerous than it looks because you start chasing the good version of them. You tell yourself, maybe if I just do better, they'll go back to the way they were. You wait for that sweet phase to return, the unexpected flowers, the compliments, the deep conversations. But those moments become rarer and the pain more frequent. This is what psychologists call the reward-punishment cycle. It's the emotional version of a slot machine. You never know what version of them you'll get, but when you do get the nice one, it feels so good, it's addictive. They might even use love bombing, suddenly overwhelming you with affection, gifts, or praise, only to withdraw completely the next day. It keeps you hooked, hoping, waiting, working harder to be worthy of the next high. But here's the truth, you were never the problem. Their love isn't love. It's a tool to control your emotional stability. I spoke once to a woman named Rachel. She said, it was like living with two people, the man who held me when I cried and the one who made me cry in the first place. That contradiction is not a flaw. It's a feature designed to trap you in uncertainty, where their validation becomes your oxygen. So ask yourself, do you feel like you're constantly trying to avoid upsetting them? Do you spend more time managing their emotions than living your own life? If so, you may be stuck in a cycle of emotional dependency. And here's something that might hurt, but could set you free. If someone treats strangers better than they treat you, they're choosing to. It's not that they can't be kind, it's that they won't. Not to you. You deserve someone whose kindness isn't conditional, whose love doesn't come with strings, and who doesn't need an audience to treat you with respect. Quanto, there was a time you lit up when you talked about your dreams. You had hobbies, passions, maybe even a wild idea that made your heart race. But now, it's gone. You don't talk about those things anymore. Maybe you've even forgotten what they were. That's not random. That's not just growing up or losing interest. That might be the final and most devastating sign. Someone has stolen your soul. No, not in the fantasy sense, but in the emotional, psychological sense. When a person slowly chips away at who you are until all that remains is a version that serves them. It starts with helpful suggestions. You're not really good at that. Don't embarrass yourself. That's a waste of time. No one cares. And you think they're just being honest, maybe even protecting you. But over time, the comments stack up. The criticism replaces encouragement. And suddenly your identity becomes a mirror, reflecting only what they approve of. They might even disguise it as support. I'm just looking out for you. I want what's best for you, but what they really want is control. You begin walking on eggshells. You edit yourself. You question your own talents. And before you realize it, you've lost the most important thing, yourself. One man I interviewed, let's call him Eric, said, I didn't even recognize the guy in the mirror. I dressed the way she wanted. I laughed at what she thought was funny. I stopped painting, which I loved, because she said it was childish. 10 years later, I couldn't even remember who I was before her. That's not love, that's erosion. Even worse, they might steal your accomplishments. When you achieve something, they take credit. When you shine, they dim the light. When you finally do something brave, they reframe it as reckless or selfish. They want you small, contained, manageable, because your growth threatens their grip. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt proud of something and weren't afraid to share it? Do you ever feel like your success is never your own? You are not here to shrink for someone else's comfort. You are not meant to play a side role in someone else's movie. You are allowed to take up space, to rediscover the parts of you they made you bury, to reclaim your voice, your joy, your dreams. Because once someone starts stealing your soul, it's time to take it back. Have you ever felt like no matter how kind, calm, or understanding you are, it's still your fault? You try to compromise and they call you weak. You set boundaries and they call you selfish. You express pain and they say you're overreacting. This isn't a miscommunication. It's a tactic I call the mirror reversal, where they reflect their flaws onto you so convincingly, you start to believe them. They cheat, then accuse you of being unfaithful. They lie, then call you manipulative. They insult you, then say you're too sensitive when you react. It's like arguing with a funhouse mirror. Nothing looks right, but you can't quite explain why. Over time, this constant reversal makes you feel like you're losing your moral compass. You begin to question, am I the toxic one? Did I make them act like this? Is it really me who's broken? But that's exactly how this dynamic is designed to work. The more guilt they pile onto you, the less you can hold them accountable. And the more you try to fix things, the more you forget that they're the one doing the damage. I once worked with a survivor named Leah. She said every fight ended with me apologizing. Even when I was crying from what he said, I still said sorry. That's not conflict resolution. That's mental erasure. Here's a quick test. Does this person ever take real accountability without blaming you first? Do they twist every confrontation into an attack on you, even when you approached it gently? If so, you're not being loved. You're being reprogrammed. Because the mirror reversal isn't just gaslighting, it's identity theft. It replaces your self-worth with shame and turns your goodness into guilt. And you deserve better than being punished for having a heart. If you've made it this far, take a deep breath, because what you've just confronted isn't easy. You've looked straight into the shadows, into behaviors that most people refuse to name. And maybe, just maybe, you've seen glimpses of your own experience reflected in each of these signs. Let's recap. The energy vampire leaves you emotionally drained after every interaction. The isolation master cuts you off from everyone who truly cares for you. The reality bender twists the truth until you can no longer trust your own mind. The Jekyll and Hyde keeps you addicted to a cycle of chaos and charm. And the Soul Stealer, perhaps the most dangerous of all, slowly erases the core of who you are. And the Mirror Reversal flips the blame so well, you start to believe you're the problem. I've seen this not just in others, but in myself. I didn't realize how far I had disappeared until I tried to laugh and couldn't. These aren't just red flags. They're warning signs of deep emotional manipulation and control. And here's the hardest part to accept. Sometimes these demons wear the face of someone you love. But love should never cost you your sanity. It should never make you feel less than. It should never require you to disappear. So what now? First, recognize the patterns. That alone is an act of power. Second, reconnect with friends, family, or even a therapist. Anyone who reminds you of who you were before you started shrinking to fit into someone else's world. And third, reclaim yourself. Start small, return to a hobby you abandoned. Call someone you've avoided. Say no to something that doesn't serve you, even if it scares you. You might stumble, you might grieve, you might question everything, but eventually you'll realize you were never broken. You were simply under someone else's spell, and now you're waking up. Because you are not here to be controlled. You are not here to be diminished. You are here to live fully, freely, and unapologetically, no matter who tried to convince you otherwise. If this video spoke to something deep inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below and tell us, have you ever experienced one of these signs or seen someone you love go through it? Your story might be the mirror someone else needs to see their own truth. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. We're building a space where healing, clarity, and strength can grow, one honest conversation at a time. You deserve to be heard, you deserve to be free, and you are not alone.